Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another one of our amazing webinars. Today, we are with our most valued partner, TextUs, to talk about the ROI of SMS in your sales funnel, something that we really haven't seen a whole lot of. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited about this. Today, we're joined by Maggie and Nick, both from TextUs. We do have some polls that are in the poll section. It looks like a little chart with like 3 lines. Feel free to go ahead and answer these. We love to hear your feedback. We love to hear what's going on in your world and what these look like. So be sure to check those out and answer them as we go through this. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the TextUs group, and I will kick it off with Nick.
Thank you, Gina, and welcome everybody. Really excited to be here and walk you through some of the data that we've been able to gather about the impact that texting can have on your sales pursuits. I'm Nick Madison. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at TextUs, and joining me is Maggie, who is our VP of Marketing. So really excited to get started. And as we take a look at the agenda here, we're first going to talk a little bit about the landscape in sales and the ever-changing landscape and often the ever more difficult landscape of getting customers and prospects to engage with you in meaningful ways. And we'll think about that through the lens of SMS and how that can impact each part of the sales funnel, but also post sale and the way that you can engage with your customers in meaningful ways to enhance and grow those relationships. We'll also give you some hard data on the impact on and business case of SMS and the way that it can improve the way that you can engage and win more often. And lastly, as you can imagine, we help our customers send an incredible amount of text messages each day that gives us a really significant repository of data on what works and what doesn't. And so we'll talk a little bit about best practice and how to get the most from a platform like TextUs. And then, of course, we'll save plenty of time for questions. We'll certainly do our best to answer questions in the chat and the Q&A as we go, but we'll leave time at the end to make sure that all your good questions get addressed. So as someone who was once a seller myself and certainly thinks about sales every day, these are probably relatively familiar, but unchanged, but always top of mind for salespeople, sales leaders, revenue leaders, and just generally anyone who interacts with prospects and customers. And certainly top of mind is making sure that we as individuals or collectively are able to meet quotas, hit or exceed targets, and enjoy the upside of that for ourselves as well as for our companies. But also a key way to do that is to make sure that you're being efficient with your time and that the efforts that you're putting forth are producing the best outcome and the best return on your investment in time and the areas that you're spending your focus as you're working through your pipeline. And lastly, it's really hard to get prospects to sign up as customers. A little bit easier typically to get them to grow with you, but the level of effort and the behavior required is similar and no less important as you work with your customers and make sure that they get off to a good start, but also that they see the value in your solution and continue to want to buy more from you. It all starts with pipeline, and really, mostly for us, what we mean by pipeline is not just the quality and quantity, but the actual engagement and a measure of how engaged your prospects or your customers are with whatever content you're putting out and in whatever way you're trying to engage with them. And really up-leveling your ability to engage is the biggest difference maker in successful outcomes. And what we see and what we know from the data is that using SMS can have a massive impact. and make an exponential increase in your ability to engage with your target audience in the ways that you want and in the ways that you can control to produce good outcomes. Here you can see a comparison of SMS to cold email outreach. And candidly, we're being pretty generous with the email performance here. Typically, we see 5% on the upper end of email response rate for cold outreach. Often it's much less. But text is significantly better, often 5 to 10x better engagement versus other forms of outreach. And if you think about your regular life, it is easier to interact with people in your personal life and in business over text than other mediums. And so, you know, we certainly see the benefit in that and endeavor to produce an easy to use platform that allows you to engage with your target audience in the ways that they want to engage and in ways that they give you the best responses. Another key element for everyone is efficiency and the time spent. If you can become more efficient, you can further exponentially impact the positive outcomes that you're driving and that your organization is driving. We know it's getting harder and harder to get prospects to agree to a conversation. And we know that many touch points are required before they really do start to pay attention, understand what you're offering, and then reconcile the benefit that it could provide to them. So many touch points are required. Rule of 7 is probably a good minimum to consider as you're reaching out to prospects and key targets. And when you're trying to expand your reach, efficiency is massive. So you know, cold outreach through email is historically effective, becoming less effective. Text and SMS is becoming more effective. But the other thing that plays a big role here is the amount of time that it takes your target audience to respond to you. And what we see here is a significant reduction when you reach out via SMS versus other forms, including email and phone call. And so not only can you be more efficient, can you reach more people, can you get them to engage more often via SMS outreach, they're also going to do it faster. So you can get them while it's top of mind, and you can jump on opportunities as they present themselves to you. So I'll throw it over to Maggie now, who will walk us through the impact of SMS on the sales pipeline.
All right, thanks, Nick. So we'll set the stage here a little bit. I'm going to, talk through the sales process, but want to give some baseline metrics to help kind of give you a sense of, how we build a case around SMS, how it impacts different stages throughout the funnel. So we'll start here with this collection of response rates. These are by industry. This comes from data that we pulled from our own users as well as surveyed users that we run at least once annually. So obviously this doesn't encompass every industry we work with, but a large chunk of the ones that are what we consider to be power users. So, I think the message here is really that it's strong across the board. There's a little bit of variance, but not a whole lot. And we're, upwards of 70% plus as it relates to conversational response rates by industry. So really what this is hoping to highlight is there's a right mix of channels, that does include phone and email, but text really can help enhance the engagement and really drive things down funnel as you start to get better and better response rates across the board. Talked a little bit about omni-channel, but this is another kind of look at this data. So, what we see is that the highest response rate, at least from our data, does come from SMS. Email is in there at number 2, phone call number 3, and then MMS at number 4. So what this is illustrating is that there's a right mix of multiple channels. Of course, we love text messaging, we love SMS, but it's part of an omni-channel strategy. And really, the goal is to drive engagement across the board, to utilize multiple touch points. This goes back to the point that Nick made about that rule of 7. How can you utilize different communication methods within your strategy to drive that engagement? And what we see here, the predominant ways that businesses utilize SMS, and these are kind of our 4 major use cases. lot of uptake in workforce management. So this is employee engagement, shift scheduling, just communicating with employees. We see a lot more adoption within that use case compared to others, especially when you're in a situation where you want to drive response, you want to inform people that are maybe deskless workers or dispersed workforces. Secondly, recruitment is a big one. Moving candidates throughout the pipeline. So this is obviously a sales kind of focused webinar, but we look similarly at the candidate life cycle as it relates to recruiting, similar to sales. So you want to engage people throughout the funnel and essentially place them to market quicker. Sales and marketing, very similar here. This is a harmonious effort to engage throughout the life cycle of a prospect and a customer. So when we talk about sales and marketing, there's a couple different ways of doing this. There's the kind of standard mass text marketing that a lot of people are probably familiar with, but we also want to highlight the conversational one-to-one. SMS becomes a much larger piece of the puzzle here, particularly as you're nurturing a prospect down funnel and you need to get responses, you need questions answered, you're doing more discovery on their needs. And we see, a nice uptick here in terms of the response rate we can generate from prospects and customers throughout the sales life cycle. So we're going to take a kind of a high level look here at the funnel. I'm not going to necessarily read every single one of these, but in the kind of harmonious effort of sales and marketing, I'm going to talk about the top of the funnel and Nick will talk about the bottom stages of the funnel. So what we're looking at here in a very basic way is top of the funnel, you're attracting, people looking for information, really just starting to come into that buying journey. Stage 2, you're looking to convert and have that prospect take action. Stage 3, looking to close that prospect and move them into the customer phase of their journey with you. And then 4, we call delight, but really this is where you start to utilize those upsell and customer success opportunities. And there's still a lot of ways you can utilize SMS even after the deal is closed. So we talk about the awareness phase, very top of the funnel, right? We're just looking to generate, some awareness about our brand, driving both inbound and outbound leads. You want to index for the right keywords. So we're just talking getting people to the website, optimizing your landing page experience, and then delivering content that sparks interest. So this is the stage at which SMS is not necessarily part of the journey, but is kind of where you want to start to capture that intent and ideally capture that phone number at the point that you're delivering content that's engaging and relevant to that particular prospect. So using multiple mediums to deliver that content and then engaging beyond a landing page. One of the things that we do at TextUs, we put together all different guides, playbooks. We drive a lot of awareness through advertising. And when we capture things through gated download forms, we'll ask for a phone number and get that opt-in at that phase. So that way we can start to engage that prospect, not only by delivering them that content, maybe following up with an email, but now we have a phone number we can start to engage, ask some questions. Hey, saw you downloaded that playbook of ours recently. Let me know if you'd like to connect to learn a little bit more. So that's an opportunity then for us as marketers to capture that intent and then hand it over to sellers who can then start to engage down funnel. When we look at that capture and convert stage, right, speed to lead, I'm sure this is not a new concept to a lot of sales folks that are likely on the call. We want to make sure we get responses quickly and engage, essentially striking when the iron is hot. So some interesting statistics here, 82% of consumers expect responses within 10 minutes from businesses they engage with. Those businesses that respond within an hour are 7 times more likely to connect with decision makers. So we talk about speed, and we'll share some data here around just SMS response times and the engagement we see relative to the number of minutes. You'll see quite a gap as it relates to other communication channels. So email and phone can certainly hinder progress along that journey. And we've talked already about the response rate that text sees that tends to, frankly, mop the floor a bit with email and phone. So with that, I'll share the numbers. We're just looking at median response time. This is over a 12-month period. This is in minutes, and then that green line is a 3-month average. So really what we're illustrating here is that it's fast, right? median response time we see from most of our users once they send a text, is oftentimes 15 minutes or less to get a reply back. By comparison, the average professional responds during work hours via email in about 3.5 hours, so significantly longer. If you're talking outside of work hours, you're upwards of a full working day plus 10.5 hours. So I think the numbers pretty much speak for themselves here, particularly as you're looking to move prospects, customers quickly down funnel, or at least quickly through their buying journey. Getting a response is key to that. So, this is pretty compelling data as it relates to the efficacy of SMS here. All right, Nick, I'll kick it back to you for lower funnel.
Thank you. Yep. So once you have a quality opportunity, you have to win it, and you have to win at a better rate than your competitors, than your peers. And really a few things stand out. And I read a quote recently that I think really resonated with me, which is a lot of the most successful people are people who respond and respond quickly. And you see that in regular life, and you certainly see it in business. And in a world where most of us are selling in a highly competitive landscape, it's rare that there are companies out there that truly have a completely differentiated value proposition. We know there's someone else that that prospect or customer could opt to work with, and instead of you and your offering. And so the way that you show up in the sales process ends up being really important in your likelihood of winning. And speed to response, but also engaging in the ways that prospects and customers prefer, really has a big impact on your likelihood of winning, and helps to set you apart from competition. If you're first to respond and your response is solid and you're engaging with them in a way that they appreciate, even with equal value propositions versus competition, you're going to win. And so why not tip the scale in your favor? And you can see that with some of the data here, most prospects make a purchase based off of their sales experience. Certainly feature and function matter. Commercials will always be a big part of it. A contract is important, but they're going to either want to work with you and therefore advocate for that and be a good champion internally, or they could be indifferent, and you're going to lose more of those than you win. So again, if you can enhance the ways that you're interacting and increase your response time and meet them on a level playing field, you're likely to win more than you are to lose. And then I think, again, I tend to be impressed when people are prospecting me if they're using different ways to engage with me, and if they're being thoughtful about my preferences and respecting that, and following up and diligence and professional persistence is key. It can be humbling, but it's really the only way to get anyone's attention these days. And I think that multiple follow-ups are required, but doing the same thing over and over again won't necessarily impact the outcome in the ways that you would like. And so changing things and doing things that maybe your competition aren't has a big positive benefit that, again, helps set you apart from other options that your prospects or customers may have. And using collaboration tools is a key part of that. Sending quick messages to your prospects, keeping them abreast of what might be coming next or what you might need from them is key. I can tell you, every salesperson that I talk to, I encourage them to get on a text relationship with their prospects and customers, because you can get their attention more quickly. You can ask for favors when you need favors, and invariably you will, to get a deal done. But also, you're just making it more personal in a really good way. And a platform like TextUs allows you to do that, to make sure that you're complying with regulation, that you're not engaging with people who do not want to be engaged in this way. And also, there was a good question from Cameron, but there is a host of information, blueprints, sequences that we have that can help you understand the best ways to get your customers and prospects to engage with you. And so as we look at closing out the funnel, on the next slide, oh, forgive me. So we have, as I mentioned, just a massive repository of benchmarking and important data. But one thing that we see very consistently is the length of a message has a huge impact on response rate. And again, like with everything, being short and to the point, so someone can understand that, yes, this is the right time, this is something that I'm interested in, has a big impact. So if you can keep your messages short, less than 100 characters, you can more than double the likelihood of response. And so that forces you to be thoughtful and be really prescriptive about how you're communicating, which ultimately audiences prefer across any medium, but especially in text.
Yeah, often I'll just add some color commentary here. We talk about sellers using different tools to engage. I think, Nick, you and I both probably get a lot of cold emails or a lot of emails in general, whether it's cold or maybe something we've requested information about. I don't have, this is, more anecdotal data from my head, but I would say less than 10% of those sellers are engaging with me as a potential tech buyer via SMS. The ones that do, and they're not TextUs users, they're not, I don't know these folks necessarily personally, but the ones that do, I remember when it comes down to it. And it's surprising to me how few are leveraging tools outside of email. I mean, even phone calls, I'm not necessarily picking up the phone very often for numbers that I don't know, but sending a text to say, hey, this is, your account manager from XYZ company, wanted to check in, make sure you saw my email with that contract in it. Just, let me know when you have a chance to look over it. Really easy, quick touch points to just help move things forward. I'll say from my own perspective, certainly work as a potential buyer. So, it's not necessarily a slide of data, but it is, I'm an audience of one, and it definitely seems to at least move me a little bit quicker as I'm evaluating potential, services or offerings.
Yeah, same for me. So I'll double our data set here and reinforce that. I think that certainly the way that the best response for me is someone who does something unique. That increases my likelihood of paying attention. And I'd probably stack rank things as text gets my attention the best by far, and then reaching out on socials, and then a big drop, and then email. You have to write a really good email before I think executives are going to have time to read it and see that there's actually value there. So being short and to the point and using text is a difference maker. And that goes beyond your B2B outreach. Certainly, like, a lot of people prefer to engage in this manner. And let's extend that into their business lives and get more attention and better outcomes. And now I think we'll go to the end of the funnel where you've done your job, you've closed the deal, but as you all know, your job isn't done until the job is done. And making sure that your new customers are delighted and that they are getting what they think that they bought, but also invariably you'll have identified ways of growing that relationship during your initial sales process that you can leverage and follow up on post contract signature. And so again, if you've built this relationship and engagement method through SMS, it's a tremendous way to keep them abreast of what's coming for the partnership, but also how things are going, what their strategy is, and weaving in the roadmap that you've built about growing that account into your conversation with them.
All right, let's talk ROI. All of these things that we've been mentioning are nice. They look nice. They sound nice, but does it move the needle? So based on our analysis, we think so. And we put together a model that is fairly compelling as it relates to the efficacy of SMS in your sales funnel. So let's get to it. Ultimately, we're talking about driving pipeline. So we talked about higher response rate, higher conversion rate, moving down funnel at a better rate and doing it more quickly, ultimately boost your pipeline, right? It's not necessarily rocket science, but how do we get to this math? So we put together an average sales outreach funnel that, includes marketing-led outreach with 500 opted-in contacts. So maybe we're sending an email around a certain piece of content, for example, or a certain promotion. How many of those opted-in contacts are going to convert to an SQL or a sales qualified lead, effectively moving them from that upper stage of the funnel and then down? With SMS, we see a higher conversion rate there, and I'll share those on the next slide, but these are just raw numbers. 135 versus 150, a difference of 15 contacts. It doesn't seem that drastically different, but it starts to compound as you move down funnel. So from those SQLs, we see more convert to that opportunity phase and furthermore convert to that closed one. So, a difference from 12 to 18, you're looking at 50%, difference here with the amount that convert from that original list of opted-in contacts. And this is really just a story of conversion. So the way we get to those numbers is based on our own data. To give you a sense of how we move prospects down funnel, we're a B2B SaaS company. If you want some information about our platform, you come to the website, you book a demo, and eventually get on a call with an account executive who will then kind of move that prospect through the sales funnel from opportunity to closed one. When we utilize text as part of that process, so we ran this as an experiment sometime last year. I can't remember the exact date range, but we utilized an opt-in on our demo form where we asked for a textable phone number and a checkbox to opt into communications from us via SMS. And then we just looked at how it converted. So the ones that utilized SMS converted these numbers on the right-hand side versus the ones that did not, you'll see on the left-hand side. And so, the difference from 27 to 30%, not crazy, 35 to 39, again, similar. But when you compound that together and it moves down funnel, you see a significant lift in the amount of deals that make it into your pipeline and additionally the ones that actually close. And so this was, an experiment. We kind of felt like we knew what the outcome was going to be. When you put some numbers behind it, it becomes very compelling. And we just see, similar to the points that Nick and I just made, people notice when you choose to engage with them in a way that is convenient, that's fast, and it works well on both sides, right? The prospect can get the information they need more quickly. They can respond to you based on, what their schedule allows. And as a seller, you can manage that pipeline and that deal cycle much more efficiently. And so, time is money, right? So the more we can do this, the more we can move deals through the funnel quicker, the more opportunity we can then have to then go back out and start prospecting again and just repeat the cycle. So, I've said this a few times, but I do think the data really does speak for itself. And it's one of those areas where a lot of people use text in their day-to-day personal lives, but the adoption in the business world is a bit slower, but there's a ton of headroom. There's a lot of opportunity as both marketers and sellers to start looking at different ways to leverage this throughout the buyer journey. And one of the things that, I want to be clear about is oftentimes people think of SMS marketing, text marketing as 5-digit short code that you get from, a retailer maybe that you've purchased something from before, and they're running a special and they want to send you a coupon via text. That's all well and good. But what we're really want to be adamant and diligent about is that there are ways to leverage text beyond just that mass send, right? This is like a one-to-one personal communication, no different than how you would potentially interact with a prospect via email or phone as you're trying to move them down funnel throughout that journey. So text is a very easy and welcome way for a prospect to engage with you, and certainly, you know, will produce better results when all is said and done. All right, getting to the home stretch here. Nick, I'll kick it back to you for a few takeaways.
Yeah. So just again, like a little hint at some of the best practice with SMS, and there have been some good questions about how to use this kind of platform to the greatest impact and effect. But just high level, happy to get into more detail in the Q&A as well. You know, engaging via SMS to both create but also enhance leads is really preferred by your prospects at this point and your customers. And it allows you to be more efficient, but also get much better responses and enhance the experience for your target audience. Leveraging rich media in one-to-many SMS campaigns generates much higher levels of engagement and response. The data there is unmistakable, and you know, again, a lot of this is standing out, and this is a tremendous way to get people's attention in a positive and in a way that they're more likely to respond and respond positively. And then keeping pipeline moving through the sales funnel is one of the bigger challenges that we all have. I do believe that if you can get a prospect to engage with you, then that's the hardest part, and keeping them moving comes down to technique and, again, working with them in a way that they want to work. And SMS is proven to show that it can allow you to be much more efficient, but also get much better outcomes and higher win rates. And conversational engagement through text really allows you to suss out quickly what's real and what isn't with opportunities, but also improve the experience of the buyer in a way that they're going to want to buy from you.
All right. We've made it to Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm not great at bouncing around screen because I haven't had a chance to look at Q&A. So let's open. I know Nick's kind of been addressing some of these, so feel free.
Yeah, so I'll start with Eddie's question around how to get people opted in, and give you a chance, Maggie, to take a look at the question from Michael on automation. Yeah, so Eddie, that's a good question. The platform itself allows you to configure opt-in in really effective ways and make sure that you're getting opt-in. We're also happy to help you understand what's required from a regulation perspective to make sure that your website and privacy policies are accounting for the newest regulations. But really then it's just about being compelling in your outreach and finding the right audience. So that part hasn't changed throughout the years. That's always been the case, but we can help you with the right ways to capture opt-in and the best ways to grab people's attention in a positive way such that they want to opt in.
Awesome. Question on automating SMS outreach. So there's a few different ways. I'll talk to kind of the few that we've seen work really well. So at an initial phase, we started to utilize QR codes, and a lot of our customers do this as well, particularly, you know, maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's an in-person event. You can do like a free QR code generator where it opens up a pre-populated text message for the person that scans that QR code. And so what we often utilize is a keyword functionality. So maybe if someone wants more info, we set up a keyword that says more, and we attach it to a specific phone number. And then when someone scans that QR code, it'll open up their SMS prompt, and it has the keyword already typed in there. All they have to do is hit send, and now they're opted into our contact list. From there, you can then set up a keyword auto response. So, depending on what you're looking for that particular prospect to do, maybe you reply, hey, thank you for requesting more information. Here's a link to our demo form. Or, here's a link to some more information. There's a lot of different ways you can engage with automation and using keywords and QR codes where you don't have to like be on there responding all the time. The other way we utilize automation is through sequences. So time delay or specific triggers can put someone into a text message sequence, not unlike email. So if you're familiar with, email sequences in HubSpot or Outreach, it's a similar capability where you can set up various touch points with certain time delays, send them at certain times of the day. So that way you're continuing to engage that prospect via SMS without having to go into your inbox, every third or fourth day and set up another text to go out. With that, depending on the system, if you're utilizing SMS as an integration to say Salesforce or HubSpot, I'll use HubSpot as an example because we're a HubSpot house. You're able to plug SMS messages into HubSpot workflows. So let's say someone comes on your website, fills out a demo form, that goes through kind of the HubSpot routing. You can then follow up with various touch points, but text can be one of those. It could say, hey, thank you very much for requesting info. One of our sales reps will be in touch with you shortly. So there's kind of a lot of ways to slice and dice that. There's some tools that are built into the TextUs platform, but there's also some integrated tools that live within your CRM like HubSpot or a Salesforce where you can stage text as part of that, engagement throughout the buyer journey. So lots to unpack there.
So Maggie, I think you can keep going because the next question plays off of that well. It's from Gina, and she's asking the best days and times.
What we've seen, and we do have some data on this, and we're happy to share. We can send it through to the Rev Genius team to share as a follow-up. But we do have some pretty compelling data around days and time of day, and then day of the week. Generally speaking, Monday through Friday, not super surprising. But I think what's actually more interesting is that people still respond on the weekends. So are we saying, text your prospects on the weekends? I don't know that I'd necessarily go as far as to say that. However, we do see people reply on the weekends, and it's a bit lower reply rate, but you're still certainly more likely to get some feedback there versus if you were to email. Time of day, it kind of runs the gamut. So yes, business hours, that seems pretty obvious, but what we actually see is still a fair amount of engagement outside of business hours. So if we're talking 9 to 5 as your typical business hours, we really see it from like 7 to 7 or 7 to 8. Like it's a pretty long time frame within the day where people are sending and receiving, and where they will reply to your text. As someone who gets sold to a lot, I'd still probably stick to business hours, but it bears mentioning that there's not necessarily a bad time during the day unless it's like the middle of the night. And based on our data, responses come at all times of the day. So it just kind of goes to show that, it's as effective a channel as we could potentially use in these processes.
Yeah, it's more likely to get a response regardless of time of day. And again, the way I often just sort of reconcile the data, of which like we have myriad examples, but it really mirrors your behavior and the access that you have to different forms of media throughout the day. Cameron asked about AI and what role AI plays in our solution. So, very briefly, right now we're thinking about AI in two ways. One thing that we have launched is we have a massive knowledge base that helps our customers understand questions like this, as well as just how to get the most from the platform. And we have an AI overlay on that, which really allows you to efficiently and effectively get to the answers and the data that you're looking for within that knowledge base, which covers every topic under the sun with relating to SMS. So a very powerful tool. In fact, we use it every day because there's so much data and so much interesting information in there. But certainly that's a huge help to our customers to get the most from the platform. And then not yet launched, but we're certainly thinking about ways to allow AI to help our customers compose compelling messages and understand how to best A/B test different approaches for their target audience. And so we think that'll be powerful, but in the short term, and obviously you need good data for AI to have any impact. We have the data and the analysis, and that's something that we share with our customers regularly through QBRs and other meetings to help them understand the efficacy and the impact of their outreach and how they benchmark against their peers in their space.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention is we do utilize a message quality indicator. So it's not going to draft a message for you, but it will tell you, how well it is written as it relates to deliverability and likelihood of or lack thereof of getting blocked. So there are some tools kind of native currently in the platform that will, aid you in terms of drafting good messages. So, it's kind of a constantly evolving thing as we know AI can be. But we've got another one about does TextUs allow for images and PDFs? Yes. So there's a few different ways to utilize rich media throughout the platform. We do have enhanced campaign features that will allow for MMS, so multimedia, and attaching of PDFs. Additionally, those are able to be attached in one-to-one conversational messages. The other thing, which this is not specifically asking, but it bears mentioning, is a global link shortening capability that lives across the platform. It's not unique to campaigns or premium features. It allows you to put a link into a message, and then it'll automatically shorten it with a branded URL. That essentially what happens is it reduces your character count. So if you have a really long URL, then you don't have to take up a bunch of characters sending something like that. And it also just improves deliverability. It looks, better to carriers, better to providers. And so that's another way to share things beyond, just simply text via your SMS. Cool. Was just looking through poll results. I think, some interesting findings here. We've a lot of Salesforce users, a lot of HubSpot users as well. Salesforce is the predominant CRM that folks are using, which is not surprising. We're a Salesforce house as well. We do integrate with both Salesforce and HubSpot. So I know I talked a little bit about that, but some interesting findings there. Not a whole lot else. Otherwise, it's a solid 80-20. Currently using business SMS, the majority are not. So hopefully, this kind of gives you some things to think about in terms of how you might implement SMS into your, your communication, your sales and marketing strategy. So, certainly plenty more resources, obviously, on our website. But, if you have questions on how that might look in terms of implementing it in your business, that we're here to help and be resources on that front. And then lastly, just wanted to understand if anyone's using an integration. So majority are not, but it is a little bit more even split. So, it's a lot, I think, for folks oftentimes to just continuing adding onto their tech stack. And the goal, at least with us here at TextUs, is to make this really a more of an extension of your workflow, not just another thing you have to worry about. So, I think with the availability of integrations, especially with the larger CRMs, it certainly makes it a bit of a lighter lift if you're looking to implement text and you have a system that, that it can overlay with. So, cool.
One last question popped in. How does TextUs differ than other SMS providers? So I think there are a few key pillars that we think about as unique to TextUs. Firstly, we are one of the most performant and high functioning SMS platforms that's out there, overlaying software with excellent deliverability and some of the premium features that Maggie mentioned around automation, link shortening, branded links, etc. But then also feedback that we consistently receive is while it's highly customizable, it's also one of the more intuitive platforms. So you can get started and begin having these positive impacts on your outcomes and increase your revenue quickly. And that really is one of the most important things. And then lastly, I would say that we differentiate ourselves through the service that we provide to our customers, both from our customer success and account managers, but also our support team, who's highly responsive and can get you operating very quickly. And the data insights that TextUs has are unique. And so hoping to understand how to be most effective, how to differentiate yourselves, we can provide data that really speaks to using the platform to the best effect possible.
All right. I think we've done it. Looks like all questions have been answered. So, we like to obviously leave plenty of time, but, if we also can wrap things up and send you on your way, that's our goal. So, yeah, maybe, I don't know if there are no other questions, we can bring Gina back in and send you on your way.
All right, guys. Yeah, it looks like we're about 14 minutes to the top of the hour. So if we want to close out, if there's no more questions, this is your last and final chance. No? All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much to Maggie and Nick. This is really exciting, guys. Like, this is something that really isn't talked about a whole lot in our industry, in our section of this. So super excited to be partnering with you guys, and everyone stay tuned for the next webinar that'll be coming up shortly. Thank you again to Nick and Maggie for joining us this morning. Thank you everyone to our audience for participating in the polls and the questions. We really value, your input and output, if you will. And on that note, everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.